There was once a book so mysterious, so strange, that it disappeared from most Bibles. It spoke of angels who descended from heaven, of giants who walked the earth, of forbidden knowledge given to humanity before it was ready, of cosmic rebellion, of divine judgment. For centuries, it circulated among early believers. It influenced religious thought. It shaped ideas about angels, demons, and the structure of the universe itself. And yet, it was left outside the canon. This was the Book of Enoch, a text attributed to a man who, according to Scripture, never tasted death. Why was it excluded? What did it contain that set it apart? And why does it still fascinate scholars, theologians, and seekers today? To understand that, we must start at the beginning. Who was Enoch? Enoch appears only briefly in the book of Genesis, just a few lines. But those lines are unlike anything else in the genealogy of early humanity. While others lived and died, the text says, Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him. He did not die, he was taken. In ancient Jewish tradition, this made Enoch extraordinary, a human being who entered the divine realm alive. Over time, traditions grew around this mysterious figure. It was believed that Enoch was shown the secrets of heaven, that he witnessed the machinery of the cosmos, that he recorded visions of angels, judgment, and the destiny of humanity. The Book of Enoch claims to be that record. Though written centuries after the time Enoch would have lived, it speaks in his voice, presenting itself as a revelation granted to one who stood between heaven and earth. The Watchers, angels who descended. At the heart of the Book of Enoch is a dramatic and unsettling story. It begins with beings known as the Watchers. These were angels assigned to observe humanity, guardians, overseers. But observation turned into fascination. According to the text, 200 of these angels descended to earth, landing upon Mount Hermon. There they made a pact with one another, binding themselves to a decision that would alter the fate of the world. They would take human wives. They would cross a boundary that had never been crossed. This was not portrayed as romance. It was rebellion. From these unions came offspring known as the Nephilim, giants of immense strength and appetite. The text describes them as violent, insatiable, and destructive. They consumed resources, devastated lands, and turned against humanity itself. The earth, Enoch says, became filled with bloodshed. But the greater transgression was not merely physical, it was intellectual. The Watchers taught humanity secrets that were not meant to be revealed. They taught the forging of weapons. They revealed the cutting of roots and the knowledge of herbs. They instructed in astrology, the movements of the heavens. They introduced enchantments, sorcery, cosmetics, and the art of seduction. Knowledge spread rapidly. Civilization accelerated, but moral maturity did not. Humanity gained power without wisdom to guide it, and imbalance followed. The cry of the earth. As corruption increased, the text describes something profound. The earth itself cried out. Violence had disrupted the harmony of creation, and the cry reached heaven. In response, divine judgment was declared. Archangels were sent. The leader of the Watchers, often named Azazel in the text, was bound and cast into darkness. Others were imprisoned, awaiting final judgment. The Nephilim, their giant offspring, were destroyed. And then comes a story familiar to many, the flood. In the Book of Enoch, the flood is not merely punishment for human wickedness. It is a cosmic correction. The world had become unstable. Knowledge had outpaced character. Power had outgrown restraint. The flood becomes a reset, a restoration of balance between heaven and earth. The cosmic visions of Enoch. But the Book of Enoch is more than a tale of rebellion. It contains detailed visions of the cosmos itself. Enoch is taken on journeys through multiple layers of heaven. He sees storehouses of winds, chambers of the sun and moon, pathways of stars, angelic hierarchies overseeing cosmic order. The universe is presented not as chaotic, but structured, governed, measured. The movement of celestial bodies is described with surprising complexity. The text attempts to map time, seasons, and cycles. Whether literal or symbolic, it reflects an ancient desire to understand the architecture of reality. Heaven is not abstract in Enoch. It is organized, layered, alive, and humanity exists within this vast, ordered system, accountable to its laws. Why was it left out? Given its influence and early circulation, why was the Book of Enoch excluded from most biblical canons? The answer lies in the development of religious tradition. As Jewish and later Christian communities formalized their sacred texts, certain criteria were applied. Texts needed apostolic authority, theological consistency, and widespread liturgical use. Enoch, though respected, presented challenges. Its elaborate angelology went far beyond the Hebrew Bible's brief mentions of heavenly beings. Its cosmology was expansive, its narrative style apocalyptic and visionary. Over time, it was preserved in some traditions, most notably within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, where it remains canonical to this day. Fragments of the Book of Enoch were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls in the 20th century, confirming its antiquity and importance in early Jewish thought. It was not erased, not destroyed, but set aside, and yet its ideas endured. The concept of fallen angels, the imagery of cosmic judgment, even themes found later in the Book of Revelation echo Enoch's influence. Its voice continued, even from the margins. The symbolism beneath the story. Beyond its dramatic imagery lies something deeper. The Watchers can be understood symbolically. They represent the descent of higher knowledge into unprepared hands. They represent ambition without restraint. The Nephilim symbolize imbalance, strength untempered by wisdom, and the flood represents correction. History shows a repeating pattern. When technological advancement exceeds moral development, instability follows. When knowledge expands without responsibility, collapse becomes inevitable. Enoch speaks to that tension. It asks a timeless question: should all knowledge be pursued, or must wisdom come first? The story is ancient, but its warning feels contemporary, a text that refuses to die. The Book of Enoch was never merely a forgotten manuscript. It became a source of fascination for mystics, theologians, scholars, and seekers across centuries. It influenced early Christian thought. It shaped understandings of angelic rebellion. It expanded humanity's vision of the cosmos. And perhaps most importantly, it challenged readers to consider the cost of crossing boundaries too soon. Whether read as literal history, mythic narrative, or symbolic theology, its power lies in its depth. It forces us to confront the relationship between heaven and earth, between knowledge and wisdom, between ambition and consequence. The timeless warning. The Book of Enoch is called forbidden, but perhaps that is not entirely accurate. It was not hidden because it was evil. It was left outside because it was different, expansive, unsettling, difficult. And sometimes it is the difficult texts that linger the longest because they do not offer simple answers. They offer reflection. Across civilizations and religions, we find the same pattern. Power gained too quickly, knowledge sought without humility, a fall, a correction, a renewal. Enoch is not only about angels, it is about us. There are stories history leaves at the edges, texts that echo just outside the canon, whispers of ancient worlds that refuse to disappear. Here in Timeless Realm, we explore those forgotten corridors of wisdom, not to provoke, not to sensationalize, but to understand. Because when we examine the myths, the visions, and the sacred writings of the past, we begin to see the patterns that shape our present. If you seek ancient knowledge beyond the surface, subscribe. The realm is vast, and we have only just begun.